Here we are for H4 TV's episode 30. Yes, we're already at 30 episodes. Today we're talking about something really important, which is what is the best cardio method for fat loss, okay? We all know, or maybe you don't know, the number one thing to help you from a fat loss perspective is of course going to be nutrition, but from a training aspect is going to be metabolic strength training. So hopefully you are already doing that. But today we want to talk about what's the best cardio method for fat loss. And the answer to that is interval-based cardio work. Now, what does that mean? Basically, think short bursts of work followed by a rest period, and this is done in a limited or short amount of time. Now, compare that to a steady state or think of long distance cardio. Now, those of you might say, well, I'd love to run on the treadmill for miles upon miles or for an hour. I'd love to go do my races. That's great. If your number one goal is to run a race, a 5K, a 10K, a marathon, a half marathon, that's your goal, then you need to be doing that. If your goal is strictly fat loss and looking the best possible, then your goal needs to be intervals. So that's the difference. Depending on what you're trying to focus on is what you should make important. So I'm guessing most of you out there, your goal is fat loss, just like our clients. So with that being said, why should you do interval training? Well, number one, it takes up less time. Most of you out there do not have all the time in the world to work out, so something that's going to take less time is of course going to benefit you. Number two, less boring, right? Most traditional cardio, hour on the treadmill, go out, run 5 miles, is not the most exciting thing in the world. Now, if you're one of those rare people that love to just run, then it's really exciting for you. But majority of people cannot stand doing long distance cardio. So the benefit of intervals, less boring. And then finally, probably the most important is going to be greater results. I'm sure all of you want to know, how can I get the fastest results in the less amount of time? That's going to be the least boring. This is your answer, okay? So you can see a lot of benefits here. Second thing most people are going to ask is going to be, how often or when should I do this? Generally, you should be doing your metabolic strength training 2-3 times a week, and then intervals 1 to 2 times a week, depending on your abilities, your experience in working out. But I would stick to 1 to 2 times a week, and that way you give yourself 1 to 2 days of just recovery. When we're talking about intervals, let's break it down for you guys. 4 components, okay? This will help you kind of build your own intervals. This will help you understand better how to understand if something is truly an interval or not. So number one, we want to limit our workout to under 20 or 30 minutes, okay? The whole idea of this is it's high intensity. So if you start to get past the 30-minute mark, odds are you're not working at the level you should be, because if you can last that long, you're definitely working at a lower intensity. And we also start to approach more of a true aerobic or kind of long distance cardio, which we're not going for. Number two, the hard work aspect of it should last about 10 to 40 seconds. Now, yes, that's a huge range, but there's different protocols. You could do intervals that last, brief, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, it doesn't matter, but somewhere in that range, again, you start to get a minute and up, you're approaching kind of less intensity. If you're kind of a beginner, you might want to lean towards the higher number, which you might say, why would you want to do more work? Well, because odds are you're going to start at a lower intensity. So you want to balance it out by doing a little more work. So you're going to lean towards the 40 seconds aspect of it. If you're more advanced, you're going to do both. You want to do some work at the higher end, 40 seconds. You want to do some work at the lower end, 10 seconds, because that'll generally be even faster speeds. Number 3, rest period should last anywhere from 10 to 90 seconds. Yeah, it could be 2 minutes even in some protocols, but generally, again, a big wide gap, but it depends on what your work total is. So what if you're a beginner? Generally, you're going to do a 1-to-1 ratio. So it means if you work for 30 seconds, you'd rest for 30. Now, again, you might say, well, wouldn't I want more rest if I'm a beginner? You might think so, but in fact, odds are your work period is not going to be quite as intense, even though the duration's up, so you probably don't really need that much rest. okay? If you're more advanced, you're gonna start with maybe a 1-to-4 ratio, so meaning if you work for 30 seconds, you might rest for, upwards of 2 minutes, and then you could gradually bring that rest period down to work for 30, rest for 60, work for 30, rest for 45, and so on. As you get stronger, you won't need quite as much recovery. And then another key with that rest is it should be active rest, okay? It shouldn't just be sprint for 30 seconds or do 30 seconds of burpees and then just stand there, okay? It needs to be active, whether you're just kind of gently marching, real light jog, something to stay moving, but not just simply, standing still. So just wanted to make a note of that. Number 4, key thing here, make sure that the intervals are indeed hard. A lot of times clients will say, well, I did 20-minute intervals and then after I just went and ran 5 miles because I feel like I needed more. Odds are you're not working out at the intensity and your intervals are not hard if you could continue to do more work after that 20 to 30 minute period. So the key here is they need to be hard. So when you're doing the work portion of the interval, think of 1 to 10, 10 being your ultimate max, like that's all you got, and 1 being you're barely moving. That work part of the interval should be an 8, a 9, close to that 10, okay? Now, some of you might have a hard time understanding that or getting to that point, but it's gonna take some practice, and it's also gonna take a lot of mental strength, because at the end of the day, intervals are not easy, but the fact that they're not easy is how you get those great results. So again, make sure that they are hard at the end of your 20 minutes, 30 minutes. No way you could do more work, okay? So hopefully that helps you guys out. Again, intervals, best results, less time, less boring. We're looking at 1 to 2 times a week to go in addition to your strength training. If you guys still kind of having trouble with what's an example, what could I possibly do, if you go ahead, we're going to include a link to our YouTube page right below this video here on Facebook, and you can check out some ideas right there on our YouTube page. And then also, if you comment below, we'll send you a bunch more options as well to help you guys out. So again, don't forget to click on our link below, check out our YouTube page, and make sure you comment with any questions you might have. We'll help you guys out further. Thanks.